Welcome to Business Reporter's Future of Financial Services and Banking campaign. I'm Rachel Hicks. Without confidence in the accuracy of investment reporting and their ability to deliver smart, successful investment management, companies risk wasting time and money. So they collect data, and a lot of it. In fact, firms focused on alternative investments are drowning in a deluge of data. But it doesn't have to be this way. In this episode of our series of discussions with Dynamo software experts, we're focusing on ESG. As regulators, investors and shareholders demand greater accountability, how do you as a business manage historical data gaps, choose which ESG framework to trust and deliver what's demanded? To discuss this, I'm joined by Danielle Pepin, Dynamo Head of Product PMV. So Danielle, how does an investment become ESG compliant?
Well, it's a trick question because there's no such thing as ESG compliant, but it is a question that I get asked a lot. I recently was asked that at a conference. Somebody said, I trade commodities futures. It's a really controversial market. Can I be ESG compliant? How do I make that product ESG compliant? That would mean being compliant with 50 frameworks, and there are just too many frameworks in the space to say I comply with all of them. What you have to do is become ESG aware. Think about what you mean by ESG compliant, and everybody does mean something. They might mean that they want to follow do no harm principles, or they want to measure their carbon emissions. And once you figure out what it is you care about in that space and you start to measure it, then you're ESG compliant, or at least you're ESG aware.
So let's say we are, acutely ESG aware. There are many frameworks to report on ESG. How does a fund manager know which one to target?
It is a tough question, and it's a question that clients come to us with sometimes. If they're just launching an ESG or impact program, they might say, okay, I'm ready to start, what do I ask? And there are a few good starting frameworks there. So there are some frameworks that just have a few questions, they're straightforward, and they go cross-industry, and that's a good starting place. But where you get into having those 40 or 50 frameworks are when you get into sector specialties. So a sector that, if you're in agriculture, you're going to be collecting things like how much barley did you produce and how much of your water is recycled. But you're not going to be applying a field to market framework like that if you're in fintech. So a lot of that haze goes away if you start to go down into what sector am I investing in? What are the sensitive topics? What's the geography? And then there are a handful of really good respected frameworks in any given sector.
So Danielle, Dynamo is a company that's developed methods for collecting data based on ESG frameworks. But what can you do for your GP and LP clients, and how do they typically use the ESG module?
So there's some core typical ways that our clients use it, and at the heart of it all is organizing the data. So we're framework agnostic. We map different frameworks together. The beauty of that is if you're asking questions based on one framework, if later you start reporting against another one, so say you become a signatory to something, you can just take the data that you already have. It's already well organized, taxonomized within the system. So it makes it much easier to communicate between different parties and to use that data for different methods. So at the heart of our system, we've got a question bank based on cross-mapped frameworks, and an ability to send out surveys and do different data collection exercises. But we also augment that with a lot of accountability and abilities to assign tasks, measure completion. And that comes from Dynamo's legacy as a CRM. So we've been doing that for a long, long time. Along the way, we've acquired new capabilities, new features, other companies that do a great job with things like portfolio monitoring. We organize the data. We provide that backbone of the CRM to not just talk about what happened in the past, but how do you actually impact that going forward? So a lot of GPs, not just in the impact side anymore, but across all responsible investing, they want to make a difference. So they invest in companies, but they do want to see that change over time. So we help them record that and set their intentions there. We help them pick a framework and get something that gets them started on data collection. And then on the LP side, we make sense of that fire hose of information. So right now they have access to a huge amount of information, and it's almost too much. I mean, if someone can say, we're going to report all of our stats to you, and then give you a stack of PDFs. Well, that's great if you've got people to go through and read the stack of PDFs. One of the things we can do, we acquired a company last year that allows us to use a bit of AI and a bit of human intervention to tag and read PDFs. So suddenly that big stack of data becomes curated data in the system, well organized, that you can then generate reports off of. You can do analysis, you can benchmark your funds against each other, and it becomes a little bit more of a story, and you can bring into focus the data that you want to see.
But how do you adapt to your clients' needs, and given the sector is changing so quickly?
We do have to stay on our toes. I mean, it takes work. It takes getting ahead of regulation, and you might spend a weekend reading something new that has come out from a UN group. That's part of the facts of it. Part of it is just speaking with our clients. So we have some amazing clients who are really experts in this industry and have been for years. I mean, especially being based in Europe means that we've been doing it a little bit longer than some of the American firms, and so we've had access to that growth, that sort of organic learning process. A core way that we stay ahead is having a great tech stack. It doesn't sound sexy to say that and say, this is our what we bring to the table, but it's a huge advantage. So it's great to have all the knowledge and to be able to consult, but then having a tech stack that scales really well, that can handle thousands of data points from thousands of asset level reporters, that marks all the data as point in time. There's a lot that I think we bring to the table in terms of the tech side of things.
So finally, give me a broad overview of the future of ESG from the portfolio monitoring perspective.
I think we'll see more regulation. We're already seeing it emerge. I mean, we've been living with SFDR for a little while, and the SEC has been making noise about disclosures as well. So that's definitely coming. I think we'll see more industry initiatives, self-led initiatives between investors and funds, and then education at the asset level. That's already starting, and it's been in place for years, but we're really seeing a lot of heat pick up around that. A lot of our clients have become signatories to data sharing exercises. That'll, I'm sure, keep continuing as a trend. And it also complements trends that we've seen on the financial side, where GAAP, now everybody reports on generally accepted accounting. And there was a time when that wasn't true, and I think we're moving toward that for ESG, so standardization and rounding up around hard numbers. So there was a time when you could put some wind farms on your brochure and you could install some solar panels and say, we've made an impact. But now we're going more toward hard numbers, and we're trying to organize that impact story around things that are verifiable, targets, and show progress over time.
This was Danielle Pepin, Head of Product PMV for Dynamo Software.